This is Dr. Don Boynowski for Blue Mountain Radio, KQBM 90.7. Today I'm going to be speaking with Dr. John Searle, Professor of Philosophy at UC Berkeley, where he began his career at the age of 26. He's the recipient of numerous awards and prizes in the field of cognitive science. Dr. Searle has published 18 books and countless articles on the structure of language, mind, and social ontology, and he's widely regarded and recognized as one of the world's great philosophers of mind and language. Welcome to the program, Dr. Searle. Yeah, and so one of the things that struck me, I was looking at a book by James Bowen called The History of Western Education, and he was pointing out that maybe up until just a few centuries ago, 99% of all humans were illiterate.
Yeah.
So basically, what then that means to me, and I'm asking sort of a question of what you think about this, that written language had been around for 5,000 years, more or less in the hands of a very, very small group of people, perhaps kings and their religious leaders, and they, in effect, created a large part of this cognitive matrix that it carried as a backdrop and through to modern times, which is maybe now changing. Would that be accurate?
Well, I think that is accurate. And then if you're looking at the Western tradition, the fact is it was the clergy, the priests, and the monks who kept written language going. I think an awful lot of people, even aristocrats, were pretty much illiterate. I don't know how much reading the knights going off to do battle did, but the monks in their monasteries, they were busy keeping written language alive. So there was a tremendous decline after the fall of the Roman Empire, when in the Dark Ages, written language was very much preserved a small group of people.
So I'm very curious, is there a huge carryover today, since this forms the basic backdrop of our cognitive matrix as a species, you could say, in a sense, that today the effects of that is still really very much embedded in how we interact with the world and each other, and maybe as a result of science the last couple hundred years showing us that there's a much larger world out there in so many different ways. I mean, I guess you were just at the Large Hadron Collider looking at some things over there, that we're still in many ways acting like we were 5,000 years ago.
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, progress and civilization are very unevenly distributed over the population. There's right now today an awful lot of the world's population that's really totally unaware of the major scientific revolutions of the past 300 years. In the advanced societies, we think we are pretty much aware of these things, and certainly popular culture advances a certain conception of science, reveals some of the progress we've made. However, I have to tell you, you've got to be careful, because I have in my own case observed that the effects of looking at the computer screen and being on Facebook may be having a deleterious effect on a lot of my students. Their ability to write coherent paragraphs in English seems to have been declining, and even they seem to have a shorter concentration span than my students did a generation ago, and this is because of the immediacy of the presentations of computer technology. You get an image on the screen and then another image on the screen, and that does not it doesn't encourage you to concentrate on mastering the critique of pure reason, for example.
Very much the case, I would guess. I mean, looking at a push-button world where we're one click away from our next thought, and then being led into that, all being actually somewhat manipulated by the language in which computers is written, I would imagine. Do you think?
I don't know. I don't know how to program computers, so I just don't know how, and I don't know how many of my students do. I think the effect of computers comes not so much from learning the programming languages, which only a rather small number of people do, but the effect has to do with the way in which you respond to the computer and how it differs from the way you respond to the rest of your environment. It tends to be immediate gratification, and it tends to be rapid changes produced simply by clicking the mouse.
Definitely, and there's even new psychological problems associated with even single programs. For example, you mentioned Facebook. I heard about a study where they said that people were getting depressed because they see these posts of everyone having a great time, which is, of course, what people will tend to post, and thereby suffer depression as a result of not feeling like they're having a great time.
Whenever I look, I'm not on Facebook, but whenever I look at some of my friends and students who are on Facebook, I think they give an extremely distorted conception of their lives. And they leave out the bad parts and the failures, and there's a sort of self-glorification that occurs on Facebook. People don't say, well, I had 10 more failures today, and that follows from the 5 I had yesterday. That's not the kind of thing you normally see on Facebook, even though that may be the truth.
Absolutely the case, and definitely there has been some research showing that people absolutely do exactly what you say. And, what effect is that having on society as we move increasingly deeper and deeper into this, artificial, I don't know if you call it artificial world, but what do you think?
Well, yes, it's interesting. I don't know what the long-term effects of the computer civilization are going to be on human civilization. And certainly, in many ways, it's wonderful. I write much easier than I did before the processing, and I have communication with other people much more effectively on email than I ever did when it was a matter of writing a letter and putting it in the regular mail. So there's no question that we get enormous advantages from computer technology, but the disadvantages that come from altering our sensibility and altering our way of relating to the world, we don't yet fully understand those.